Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Queen's Brokerage. My name is Mohammed. In this video, this is going to be the part 3 of the study guide for the police test for New York State or for any other state as well. So this is basically a study guide for National Criminal Justice Officer, for example, MTA Police, State Trooper, such and such. So this will be a good review for those people that are planning to take those type of tests. I'm going to be helping you guys explain step by step from each question at a time. So like I said, this is part 3 and I have other parts as well. Check out my channel. Part 1 and part 2 is also available, so you can read through from there. So let's get started. So this is just a what you call an introduction page. If you will need to buy additional material, they also help you out with that as well. You can always go online, recruitmentisolution.com. You can even contact them at this number and they will help you out as well. This is just a table of contact just to what the question they're going to be asking you. So let's get started. So deductive reasoning is one of the portion of the test that they're going to be trying to ask you questions, which means that it states law enforcement policies, how they work. They will give you a situation related to the policy. For example, like questions over here. I went through this in one of my first videos, like on the information, which accused offense is supposed to be accuser, and obviously the answer was correct. C. That's one of the part 2 of my video. If you look into it, I just wanted to go over what just in general what it is. So let's get started with the real portion of this. This is sample question number 2. How many separate counts should be in the indictment if Richard Jones was charged with 3 offenses? So those of you that watched part 2, if you read through it, the correct answer was supposed to be 2. Why? Because indictment must contain a separate accusation or count adverse to each offense charged. Since there are 3 offenses, 3 accusations and counts should be included. So, which means that count means how many the person was charged how many times. Like for example, rape, murder, that's 2 counts. Rape, murder, and let's say grand larceny, that's 3 counts. So in that case, the first situation, it was only 3. So there was 3 counts. The person was charged. Flexibility of closure is defined as the ability to identify a direct or known pattern, such as a figure, word, or object that is hidden in another material. This tag is to be picked up distinguishes between patterns from the background material. That really involves finding an object that is somewhat hidden within a group of other objects. Now this is very, very important. They do mess around with people. This type of question comes around a lot of times during the test. So let's look at this. You see this for sample question 1 and 2. Select the object that is included in the figure below. Only one of the objects to each question included in the figure. Objects may be larger, smaller, or rotated in the picture as compared to the proportion, but the proportion will be identical. So sample question 1, sample question 2. For flexibility for closure, basically you see these shapes. What shapes do you see over here, and what shape do you see over here? So basically you're supposed to match the shapes. For example, the first one, let's see, do you see this shape? Well, I don't really see it. Do you see this shape? I don't see it. Maybe sometimes they do. They give you purposely 2 answers in one question, and you might think which one is which. Sometimes you do that as well in the test. So for example, this one, the correct answer is A. Why? Because look at this. This is one shape right over here outside. Now sample number 2, which one is it? Let's look into it. Do you see this type, number A, inside the figure? Well, I have to look closely. Let's look at this one. Let's look at this one. Do you see any of the shapes? That's what you're supposed to find out. Whichever shape you're supposed to look into it, that's what the answer is supposed to be. And if not, then it's supposed to be none of the above. And that's what the answer is supposed to be over here. So it will have. So this is some of the sample questions that they might ask you, like which one of these matches over here, which one of these matches over here, and there will be another choice, number E, sometimes none of the above. So that's how it has to happen. Now graphs are also very important for inductive reasoning. Law enforcement uses ability to type investigation into rules that have been violated. So like if you see a chart that says like this is 53 rapes happened during this month, 93 happens during the last month, that's what the chart is supposed to be. This is the inductive reasoning as part of it as well. So for example, your local police department has been looking at the number of phone calls receiving daily for the last 3 weeks. When did they receive the fewest phone calls? So let's look at this one. This is Monday, this is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, let's look into it. When did they receive the fewest phone calls? So Wednesday of the first week, let's say Wednesday of the first week, doesn't look like it. So let's look at number Tuesday of the second week, Tuesday of the second week, not really. Friday of the third week, Friday of the third week, yes it is. Like you can see, this is the highest phone call, but the third week of Friday, it actually dropped down below. And that's what the question is trying to ask. When did they receive the fewest phone calls during the last 3 weeks, which is Friday of the third week? Let's look at Monday the 3rd, Monday the 2nd week. Looks like Monday might be as well. You know what? Actually, it is Monday. You know why? Because look at the other option, A, B, and C. They're all incorrect. The Monday the 2nd week, they're fewest. Why? Because look at the graphs. They're not really high as these. This is really small. So answer is number C. People could get tricked, like I got tricked on number C. As you can see, it's quite easy to get tricked, but you have to look at the question and read carefully. Look at the question. It says, your local police department has been looking at the number of phone calls received daily for the last 3. When did they receive the fewest phone calls? And if you look into it, it is only Monday. From all the 3 weeks, Monday is one of the fewest phone calls. And the answer, let's see, it is D, because the department received fewer than 4,000 calls that day. And if you look into it, that's the only one. They didn't look at which of the weeks were the fewest, because that's a trick question and how a person gets tricked. Option A, B, and C, that's all correct. On Wednesday, the first week, the department received more than 8,000 calls. The obviously correct answer is D. Make sure this is very trick questions. Which day of the week saw the largest increase in the number of phone calls between week 1 and week 3? That's what you're supposed to look at. If you look into B, Tuesday of the 2nd week, that's when you received the highest because it jumped quite much. And you look over here, the correct answer sample is B, because there was an increase of almost 6,000 calls between Tuesday of the 1st week until Tuesday of the 3rd week. Option A, C, and C are all incorrect, and you can see why. Number 15, information gathering. Law enforcement uses this skill to make arrests and issue warrants. This skill is also used in applying first aid, following procedures in operation equipment, and arranging sentences in a meaningful paragraph. Information gathering is very important when it comes to, as a law enforcement officer, you need to gather information such as the crime scene, or putting the pieces together. So that's a very important part of it as well. You could use numbers, letters, words, pictures, procedures, sentences, and mathematical logic operation to use this type of information. So let's look at sample question number 1. Officer Rodriguez takes the following statement from a witness. I reached a woman and called the police. I stopped and tried to locate exactly when the scream was coming from. About halfway through my run, I heard a scream coming from the woods. I got up 6 a.m. from the morning run. The scream seemed to come from the area just behind the picnic table. I ran towards the picnic table and saw a man running away, leaving a woman behind. What is the most logical order of the statement? Now, you have to arrange this at the beginning to the least to the end. So the correct answer, obviously, if you have to look through it, I'm not going to say it, but you have to look through it. Make sure you look into it. So let's look at number C. 4, 3, 2, 5, 6, 1. Alright, so let's say 4, I got up at 6 a.m. for my morning run. Well, makes sense. Let's look at other one. Number 2, I stopped and tried to locate exactly where the scream was coming from. Oh, not really, because it seems like you're already in the story. Number 2, I stopped and tried to locate exactly where the screen is coming from. It looks like you're in the story already, but it never showed up how you were there. Number D, should I say, about halfway through my run, not really. So look at the correct answer. It is C. I got up at 6 a.m. for my morning run. About halfway through my run, I heard a scream coming from my woods. I stopped and tried to locate exactly where the scream is coming from. The scream seemed to come from the area just behind the picnic tables. I ran towards the picnic table and saw a man running away, leaving a woman behind. I reached the woman and called the police. As you could read, and I read through it, you could pick it how it exactly looks through it. So let's look at the incorrect choice, number 8. About halfway through my run, I heard a scream coming from the woods. I stopped and tried to locate exactly where the scream was coming from. I got up at 6. See that? It doesn't make sense. I got up at 6 a.m. for my morning run. The scream seemed to come from the behind, so it doesn't really make sense. So that's when you have to make sure that you have to gather information and make sense of it, because this is a real life situation. These tests are meant for real life situation. If you're a police officer, somebody comes to you, you're supposed to know how to make sure the information matches to each other. Now let's look at sample number 2. This is the same exact thing. They give you 4 witnesses, and you have to find out which one is which. According to the 4 witnesses, which car was in motion at the time of the crash. If you read witness number 1, the red Ford Escort failed to stop at the stop sign and crashed into the passenger side. Because of the impact, the Toyota Corolla crashed into the black sedan that was stopped at the stop sign and crashed. Basically, you look through it, and you're supposed to find out which of these answers are actually similar. And if you read through all of them, you find out the answer is question 2 for this is going to be B. Because according to that, witness 3, the red Ford Escort was traveling at 35 miles per hour, and if you read through it, they all said road Ford Escort, and obviously this is the same thing over here. Everyone said red Ford Escort, so they're the only ones that make sense, because the other doesn't make really sense. They all said they were traveling at 35 miles per hour, and according to witness number 4, the Toyota Corolla was in the middle of the intersection. As you have to piece it together in order to find out, like you have to find out which one of the pieces it does matches is correct. It's quite a little bit difficult, but understandable. It's you have to make sure you understand through it. Problem sensitivity is also one of the one. You have to get to a sense of a situation to going to deteriorate or worsen, to recognize the symptom of a physical problem, recording first aid to sense that an individual has a problem, and even if he insists that everything's alright, that's a problem sensitivity. Some people might say, oh, I'm okay, I'm alright, but really they're not. So that's where you have to use your judgment to see if this is where you have to rely on this skill, especially when you're patrolling neighborhood and interacting with individuals. The sample question let's use as you're investigating a series of burglaries that have occurred over the past several days in the same neighborhood. 3 victims who are all live alone provided a statement for the police. They are described below. Victim number 1 stated that he has arrived home from work around 8 p.m. on Tuesday, December 14, to find out that his front door was open. There were tools marking on the door, and a small personal safe was missing from the closet. The victim number 2 called the police at 3:09 a.m. on Monday, December 13, when she woke to a strange noise downstairs. When the police arrived, they found the blood on a glass shard from a broken window in the kitchen. The victim confirmed that the several small electronics were missing from the living room. Victim number 3 came home on Monday, December 13 at 11:30 p.m. to find out a masked man mugging through her living room cabinets. She immediately ran to a neighborhood home to call the police, and the police found that someone had tampered with the back door lock. Nothing was missing from the victim's home, but the burglar left the living room and dining room in disarray. So based on the statement above, which victim homes were most likely burglarized with the same person? And if you read through everything, the correct answer is question is C. Victim number 1 and victim number 3, because both of these burglars used some sort of tool to open a door and gain access to the home. Also, both of these burglars entered the home when no one was present. The burglar victim number 2 home entered through a broken window, and the victim was asleep. Therefore, option A, B, and C are all incorrect. So you have to find out which was both of the same person. If you read through C, victim 1 and 3, they were the only ones that were same. So sample question number 2, which of the following would be most likely to lead the conviction of one of the burglars? Well, if you read through it, what do you think is going to be? Well, if you said D, that's it. Matching the blood from victim number 2 home to a suspect. That's the only thing that will show that this was a burglar that came into the home. Because finding electronic or matching tool to mark to screwdriver does not necessarily mean that the police will find the suspect. Therefore, option A and B are incorrect. If unlikely, the victim 3 can identify her intruder because she was matched and she immediately fled the scene. You can't tell, but the blood is the only way for matching the blood to show that this was a person that did do that. Now this question is selective attention, which is very important because it shows up a lot of times in the questions as well, and they love to put these type of answers, and you have to really read through it just like a magnifying glass, because this is very tricky. And obviously this, you have to look at the letters, the numbers, the serial to make sure that everything is correct, and you have to really read through it. So you can see this person and sample question, read through it. If you're supposed to match this as same as this, and you have to read through it. I mean, it is in a different language, but you have to look through it carefully if it matches. And if you look through A, it matches. Look at this, similar, all supposed to be similar all the way to the very end. That's how it usually works. Same thing with sample number 2. You have to match this to one of these choices. Sometimes you have some similar choices. So what I do is simple. If I read through it, if I see something different, I just cross a line between it, or put a small X on the side or on the beginning, just to show that this is not right. And I read through it carefully, make sure everything's correct. Number 20 is spatial orientation. Again, use this to, when you reach a destination in the community, obviously to visualize what they are in relation to the destination, determine the best route. For example, you are in the corner of East 3rd Street and South Center Street, which route is the fastest route. And if you look at number 1 is C, and this is the fastest route. So basically this one, you have to find out which one is the fastest route to go on to a certain destination if you're dispatched to a scene. So basically this is part 3 of this video. I'll be having other parts. It's a lot of information, so I can't cover everything in one shot. So I'm breaking apart in small groups, parts, so for those people that want to listen through this video, they can listen through it as well. Thank you again for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, comment, concern, please comment, like, subscribe to my video. I'll be having more other education information videos coming up. Thank you again for watching this short video, and please, if you have any other questions about any of these questions, please don't hesitate. Always comment. I'm always glad to help you guys out. Thank you.